Boom, we're live. It's Chris I Go Home Group, powered by Remax Direct. And I am here live on a Zoom call with my main man, Zayvon Johnson. So I want to give a little bit of background here. I started my real estate cold calls room about a little bit over a year ago. And my mission was to do my first round of daily prospecting live in that Facebook group. And right around the time I started that, Zay was one of the first people in the group. And at the time, I don't think you were even licensed at that point, were you?
No, I was not licensed. I was just searching every day for information regarding cold calling, and I found your group.
Yeah. And so I remember you. Well, first of all, you got a unique name. And you were peppering me with questions that, so you'd have a lot of questions. And so it's funny when I'm doing a lot of these live dials, if somebody's coming in with questions, it's a little bit distracting as I'm making calls, but it's all good because, it is what it is. But so anyway, that's how I met Zay. He went on to get licensed, and then you had some pretty good success right out the gates, if I remember correctly. I think you sold like $1 million worth of volume in your first month.
That's correct.
Awesome. And so just to fast forward on me a little bit, I started the group a year ago. I did everything live in the group. I shared it with everybody. The group grew from me and Zay to about 3,500 other people from around the world, mostly realtors, and they watch me do my live prospecting. So Zay, I think you can speak on this. I think you benefited from watching me do what I do, right?
Oh, significantly, yes.
Cool. And so then recently, Zay kind of reached back to me and was like, look, I'm kind of in a spot where I had this fast start. I'm kind of struggling now. I'm not exactly sure what to do. And so he booked a conference call with me, and we talked for about a half hour. And in that conference call, which we'll share that conversation right now, but in that I was able to diagnose some things that I think were able to help him get onto a new trajectory and have some more success. So with that in mind, I'll turn it over to you. You can talk about our call, and we'll go from there.
Well, first and foremost, again, I'll say this to you a million times, but thank you so much for really just your openness and even doing this in the first place, because there's such a limited amount of information out there. The fact that you're doing this, you're really one of the few people that's doing it. I can only think of maybe 2 other people that do what you do. So on behalf of everyone, thank you, Chris. But the big thing for me, the big dilemma that I was having was I was sick and tired of doing 1 to 2 deals a month. I was sick and tired of it. I was working my butt off. I was literally waking up every day and going for between 30 and 50 contacts a day. Some days I would maximize that and I would go to 100 contacts a day. And I just didn't feel like I was really being truly efficient and truly productive. It just kind of felt like I was working hard and producing very, very little off of my hard work. And I mean, by all means, I'm not trying to sound complacent, because 1 to 2 deals a month, considering I just now got my license, that's not bad. But, I want to be better. I want to strive for greatness. And that's when I contacted Chris and I explained my situation to him. And I was like, what is it that I'm doing wrong? And one of the biggest issues I found is that I was really overqualifying folks. I personally come from more of a Mike Ferry background. He stresses qualifying people. And the big thing that I was doing was I was doing exactly that, but I was taking it to the fullest extent, to the point where I was setting appointments and canceling so many of them, or not going on so many of them, because the people weren't qualified. And the funniest part of it all is that I didn't even look at this area being the problem, period. And that's the reason why I find it so important to maybe speak to someone else from a different perspective outside of your business and have them give you some advice, because of all the areas in my business, I didn't think that this was the one that was actually causing me to not do more than 1 to 2 deals a month.
Right.
So long story short, I adjusted my mindset from overqualify the heck out of people and make sure they're worth my time to go out and meet them, to just, if someone expresses to me that they have a very strong interest in selling their house, what would it really hurt me to just go meet with them? I also simplified my listing presentation significantly. It's now a presentation and not just a verbal, it's now a visual presentation as opposed to just a purely verbal presentation. And this one little mindset switch has allowed me to literally take 2 listings in the past week. And not only that, but set 6 listing appointments in the past week as well.
So let me just jump in real quick. So first of all, that's amazing, right?
Thank you.
Before that, how many appointments were you setting per week?
Oh man, less than, because of how tight I was with the appointments,
right.
Probably less than 2.
Okay.
Maybe 2 on a good week.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I changed the type of calls that I made. So that's pretty significant as well.
Right. So for me, it was the first thing that it was exciting for me with talking to you was that I knew that you were taking action. So okay. That was the most, because otherwise I wouldn't waste my time talking to you. I knew you were hungry. I knew you were going to do the work. And when you told me you were doing 30 to 50 contacts a day, I personally was blown away with that number because I don't do anything close to that. And you were surprised when I told you that I didn't do anything.
Right. Right.
But yet I do set an appointment a day when I'm dialed, or more, when I'm dialed into making those dials, which is kind of like unheard of. So for me, it was like, okay, wait a second. He's definitely putting in the work. And first thing I got to say is doing 30 to 50 contacts a day is not wrong. So when you said you were doing the wrong things, I don't look at it like you were doing the wrong things. Those 30 to 50 contacts over time are certainly going to create some long-term momentum and some long-term business down the road. No doubt. But what you were concerned with is, how do I get paid now? Or how do I make money now? What can I do now to be more effective? And for me, it was like, you need to get in front of more people as quickly as possible, because I could relate to being in your position where I was only doing 1 listing or 2 listing appointments a week. You can't be an expert. You can't be a master on the listing presentation without having the volume or the experience set of going on a lot of appointments. So for me, I was like, listen, you need to get in front of as many people as quickly as possible and get those reps in, because that's where the magic happens. So when we got off the phone, I said to you, your goal for next week, when I check back in with you, I want you to have set 5 listing appointments and get 1 listing. Well, you came back with 6 appointments and 2 listings. So the proof's in the pudding, right?
There you go. And it's funny because I set 2 right after I got off the phone call with you. After that phone call, I was so buzzed up. I set 1, I think within like 5 minutes of hanging up the phone with you, and then I set the second within an hour of hanging up with you. Yeah, it's been a blast, and I've just enjoyed, quite frankly, and I don't want to sound lazy saying this, but I've enjoyed not having to cold call for 4 hours to 5 hours every morning.
Yeah,
just real with you.
Sure. So, and that's the cool thing about having, being your own, being an entrepreneur, being your own CEO. You're able to set your own schedule and the terms of how you work. But my whole thing is, in terms of scheduling, first of all, you're right. As you're setting the appointments and you're gaining an inventory and you're controlling your business through listings, you do have a lot more latitude with where you spend your time.
Right.
But it's never going to be wrong for you to be on the phone and getting contacts. That's always a good activity, but it's a matter of, well, if you get so dialed in where you're setting your own appointments and setting your own listings, and you're killing it that way, you can leverage somebody else to make those calls for you, and grow your business that way. And that's where I'm at now in terms of my own business, is bringing somebody else in to make those dials, because I've done the math in my own business to know I've got to make. I talk about this in
300,000 a day.
300,000 a day. Problem is, there's only one Chris Igo, and there's only so much I can do in one day. So now I've got to lean on and bring somebody in to make those dials for me, which is just a work in progress. So the cool
Are you
thing.
talking about NSA?
Yeah, so I'm in the process right now of looking for a inside sales assassin, but I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to bring somebody in locally, maybe not locally, but somebody that I've trained myself, that I can measure their accountability and things like that. I've had terrible success with in fact, I've had no success with any of the virtual ISAs or services that are out there. And I've tried almost all of them. They're all terrible. So for me, I know that I need to actually bring somebody in-house and do it myself. If you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. That's been my experience.
I see. I think that's pretty interesting, Chris. It's also interesting, like, hearing, at least for now, the differences in what it is that we're trying to do. It sounds to me like you're literally trying to take over the freaking real estate market down there in Boynton Beach.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like you're trying to set up a system, Joshua Smith, take over the freaking real estate market. And this really helped, this whole theory, this whole system, it's helped me out more than anything, because at least right now in my early 20s, I don't care about taking over the real estate market. I just care about really creating that lifestyle for myself that is desirable. Sure. And for me, I absolutely love the fact I can prospect an hour in the morning, maybe an hour in the afternoon. To be quite honest with you, I didn't even prospect in the afternoon, and walk away with a listing or two every single week. To me, that's an insane lifestyle. So I think for now, I'm pretty good with just that. And quite honestly, I think that is a huge, huge leap in my business just in and of itself. But I like how it has the scalability to it, to where you can someday scale this out and have 100 Chris Igos.
Exactly right. And so, look, that's the great thing about this industry, is that there's no one path. There's no one right way. What my goals are not your goals. You're going to find what works for you with wherever you're at in life, and do what you want to do, what's authentic to you. And that's awesome, right? So from my perspective, I think it's amazingly, I'm just like humbled and honored that I've been able to impact people within the real estate cold calls room by me just doing what I do. And so to be able to help you get on a different trajectory and achieve the goals that you want is just really, really cool for me. So I'm happy to be a part of it, and you're doing great.
I greatly appreciate that. Thank you very much. Like I said, you're a super humble guy, Chris. Most people wouldn't do this. Most people wouldn't.
Yeah. Well, that's so for anybody else. Well, thank you. For anybody else out there, what would your advice be to them?
My number one advice would be to them, I think the first thing you have to decide is, what is it that you want? I already had it preconceived in my mind, the sort of business that I wanted. And I mean, realistically, if you're fine with doing 1 to 2 deals a month, that's not too hard to do in this business. But if you really want to get to that next level, if you really want to expand, you're really going to have to go on more appointments, bottom line, because you're not selling houses over the phone. And that's the biggest concept that I had to really absorb in my mind. And the moment that I started going on more appointments, the moment that I improved my presentation along with that, is really the moment that I saw the ability to start squeezing in more deals every single month. So that's the biggest thing that I would suggest to somebody. And I think that you need to 100% probably dial in more. If you want now business, you need to dial in more as well on sources that will provide that now business. I was doing so much cold calling before. When I say cold calling, I mean pure cold calling, not dialing for sell by owners and expireds. I would spend like 10 minutes a day, and even those 10 minutes, they weren't 100% quality, just busting through the expireds and for sale by owners real fast. And then I just cold call for 4 hours.
Right.
That wasn't generating me the business that I wanted. And I think the switch of changing that really made all the difference.
Yeah, and I get that. It's funny. I'll get agents that'll email me or instant message me, and they're like, "I did 1,000 dials today," and I'll be, which is an insane number as far as I'm concerned. It's amazing, and I'll be like, "Well, how many appointments did you set?" And I said, "None."
Yeah.
I'm like, well,
yeah.
There's something wrong. When I hear that, it almost makes me cringe. I'm like, they're doing something wrong. Either you're calling the wrong people, or you need to rework you got to rethink. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So you gotta get clear on what you want. And if you just want to waste energy and do nothing, then continue doing 1,000 dials a day. But if you want to get serious and focused and get new listings, you got to become you got to get in front of people. So for me, it was simple. The people who have raised their hand and said, "I want to sell my home, but my agent failed me," those are the people that I want to get in front of. So the expireds, the canceled, that's just a no-brainer to me. The for sale by owners, the same thing. They're out there. They want to sell their home. They've told you that. Now it's a matter of, can I get in front of them? Can I offer them a valuable service? And can I make a deal happen?
Right.
But the thing that you were talking about previously is, don't overthink it. Don't overanalyze it. Don't turn this into something that it's not. At the end of the day, get in front of somebody, offer your services, do it in a professional way, and that's where the magic happens. But if you're doing 5 or 6, 7 a week, the odds of you getting a listing a week are very high.
Right.
So yeah, don't overthink it.
That's what I suggest to people so much, because I've had people really contact me this past week about, "Zay, your production's increasing pretty fast. What is it